Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reefs. On today's episode, we're going to get an update on the beautiful Triton 2.0 display tank, but also take a very important deep dive into exactly what is the Triton Method. Alright guys, thank you for joining me on yet another episode of Parker's Reefs, and as touched on in the intro, today we're going to cover two topics. Firstly, we're going to have a look at the development of the brand new Triton display tank 2.0, and if you have not seen Ehsan's display tank that he had back in Germany, do yourself a favor and check out some of the footage, because this has to be one of the best personal reef aquariums that the world has ever seen. And to think that these guys are now developing a version 2 of that display tank right here in Australia with all of the extra knowledge they've built since having that first display tank, and of course the adoption of all the brand new technology, the mind boggles at how good this tank's going to be. So I was very excited to get a little bit of an update where that tank's at, even though it's not full of water yet, although I think as of the time of airing this video they may have just put water in the system, but just to see what sort of approach they're going to go with that tank, both in infrastructure and also stocking plans. So be sure to follow along and see what sort of route the team are taking with that display tank. But it was also a fantastic opportunity because, as you can imagine, being at the Triton Lab, this brand new display tank is absolutely going to follow the Triton methodology. Now, I'm going to be the first one to say I did not completely understand the Triton methodology. I just heard things that obviously you do testing and you supplement trace elements, and that you don't do water changes and it uses a big refugium. Apart from that, my knowledge was pretty limited, so I was super excited to put a microphone on Ehsan and just ask him some questions about the whole Triton method to get an appreciation for what it is, how it works, and why it delivers the results it does for your home reef aquarium. So I guess without any further ado, let's head on up to Triton, Australia in Cairns, talk to Ehsan, the man himself, the man behind Triton, find out about that display tank and of course the Triton methodology. All right, Ehsan, thank you so much for making it possible for us to find out a little bit more about this incredible display tank you're building. A few weeks ago, we came and had a look at your ICP lab, which is literally straight through the ultra clear acrylic panels there. And,
not that clear, though.
we could not help but notice this incredible display tank that you're building. And for those that have followed Triton for some time, you are not a stranger to absolutely jaw-dropping aquariums. So the thought that a brand new Triton display tank is coming is something that's super exciting. So firstly, thank you. And secondly, can you tell us a little bit about some of the overview of this system, maybe some of the dimensions?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty much the same kind of volume that we had back in Germany.
Yes.
So my old tank, the Triton 1.0.
Yes.
And that's quite a while ago, and I actually love that I get an aquarium again, because
yes,
that's just something that I really need. So I missed it. Right?
A hobbyist at heart.
It was so hard to break in that old one down, mate. It was just breaking my heart. And yeah, anyway, so that clan that came out there, like it was 70 kilos. So it's, anyway, this tank is just a little bit format-wise different.
Okay.
So you have, we had a square tank before.
Yes, yeah, it's quite famously square actually. Yeah,
yeah, so it's cool. I like square tanks, but this time I wanted slightly something different.
Sure.
Especially kind of the style that looks into the lab. I
For the space we're in here, I mean, this fits this foyer into the lab really nicely,
yeah.
And being able to see through it into the lab and from the lab back out through it will be super cool.
I think we had a version of it where we turned it around.
Yes.
And it was like, you know, the little side facing you when you come in.
Yes.
But then we turned it this way and it would just look better. I think that would be crazy when you look over the corals and see the lab behind it.
The joys of an aluminium frame and an acrylic tank. If you want to move it, you just have two, when it's empty at least, you have two blokes pick it up and turn it.
Yeah, easy to move right now, but I mean, I'll show you the pipe work that's very special too.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like 1 meter 20 to 2 meter 40.
Okay.
And I think water-wise we go 65.
Yeah,
like
nice.
It is pretty much 65. We need to stay away from that bracing a bit.
Of course.
Because that's what, in the old tank, we had a glass tank. This is acrylic. Without bracing, that's too dangerous. So, you know, we hadn't, in the past we had no bracing. Like had a little brace around it,
Yes.
but nothing gone
Nothing
over
across
top.
the middle.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now this is kind of the case here, so we stay away of it.
Sure.
But yeah, that's actually the size of it.
Roughly what sort of literage does that end up being at that size?
To like 2,200, something like
Really?
that.
I thought that would have been more. It's maybe because it's so tall, it's got such a presence. It looks like a big system.
Yeah, we lifted it. So, normally we say, the optimum, you need to look at, when you make an aquarium,
Yes.
you look at the best position or height of it.
Absolutely.
So when you're sitting, let's say you have a tank that you sit actually in
Yes.
front of it, it needs to be lower. So
Yes.
you can't look at corals from below. That's not looking good.
Of course.
So this is a standing tank.
Yes.
And we lifted it a bit further because we need to get space for the pipe work.
You've
I'll
got
show you that in a second.
Some monster plumbing we'll get to a little bit later. Yeah.
But yeah, so to be honest, this is like maybe 7 centimeters in space that we need to change.
Beautiful.
But yeah, and it's that height that gives it that
Gives it a
kind of
real
mass.
presence.
Yeah. Otherwise, inside it's not that much. 2,000 something liters is also good.
It's a big size aquarium.
Yeah, and we'll have some space for the Triton Method behind, like underneath. So
Yes.
and that's always important to me, to make an aquarium that people could maybe have at home. So this is the
sure.
idea of this tank, is it's a used tank.
Yes.
So it's kind of, in the past we always had like, come somebody build it for us and whatever. And this time we wanted a bit of a challenge to create a really cool tank.
Yes.
Out of used tank. Like you just
incredible.
go drill holes into it and stuff. So
Yes.
I have videos of everything, and it's cool. It's like it's sometimes scary, but it's good. Like,
And these are some decent sized holes you'd be drilling in there too for the closed loop operation.
that was pretty scary. But yeah, we worked it out.
You did briefly touch on then that this system, obviously being in the Triton Lab here in Australia,
Yes.
will be running the Triton Method. Now,
Yes.
for those who didn't catch the previous video we did talking about your ICP machine and supplement dosing, the Triton Method isn't just a measure and dose application. There's a bit more to it, and this system is going to be a real showcase of that.
Yes. So the old one was too a really showcase. So for us,
Yes.
it's quite important to show our ability to have a show tank.
Yes.
I think a lot of vendors nowadays, they don't even care. They don't have a show tank. For us, always important. So my move over here was a bit making it hard to have it right away. But the Triton method is a very unique method. I think it's kind of got lost a bit,
Yes.
like in the years, based on marketing and sales a bit.
Sure.
So in different parts of the world, the Triton method is different things. It's really funny. So for example, in America, it's like a trace element dosage, like you say, like
Sure.
measure the trace elements, dose them. That's actually have nothing to do with the Triton method. That's like a little part of on top.
Yeah,
right?
one slice of the pizza.
Yes,
Yeah.
even like maybe the salt on top of it. Like it's really like a little part.
Yes.
The Triton method is actually a filtration method.
Okay.
So a lot of people do not know that. It might be kind of good in Brazil right now because
Okay.
there is a lot of people doing it, and they kind of, or in South America.
Yes.
We are very big present in South America right now because of the new lab.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a filtration method. So we created a method of a holistic reef tank where things match each other. And then we created supplementation that kind of fuse them together
Yes.
and create a baseline. And then you'll have like less variables to kind of get chaos into your system. So
For sure.
this method is unique in the world, and it's called the full Triton method. That means that you follow all the rules,
Yes.
which is maybe not that easy to sell. So,
Yeah, I mean, typically when we talk about methods and brands, we're talking about the products and or services you can buy. Now, obviously, we're standing in front of a lab here. You offer a service around multiple locations around the globe where people can send in their water sample, get an ICP OES analysis. They can then find out where their trace elements and some of their macro elements are at, and purchase products to bring those up or to bring those down if there needs to be that situation.
Yeah.
However, the part of the Triton method that you can't really sell is a major component of that, and that is that filtration
Yes. So
and eliminating those variables like you touched on.
Absolutely correct. So you see that testing and, most people see the testing because ICP went all over the world, right?
Yes.
There's 14 machines right now in operational in Europe, way too much, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of, everybody wants ICP testing. But the reality is that is not the success part.
Yes.
So people always look at a bottled solution, and when they look at the Triton method, it's like, 4 bottles, and when they look at something, 3 bottles or 2 bottles. So it's
Yes.
not, they really don't realize that this is not the method, right?
Yes.
What is hard to sell is that we have chosen in the past a holistic way
Okay.
to approach the problems in reef keeping.
Yes.
And that was very successful.
Yes.
Right? So it was the way of keeping things very easy in the filter, but knowing what is used up and what kind of need to be replaced.
Yes.
Because the filter exports and it will export things that you do not want to be exported.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah,
So-
things like your GFO will remove phosphates that we want it to do, but it will also remove some other trace elements that we do
Exactly.
want back in the system.
Correct, or carbon or whatever.
Yes.
So we stick to a system that always exports the same. So we're not taking the carbon out and use
Sure.
it whenever we want it, so we use it all the time.
Yes.
That's why it needs to be constant.
Yes.
And then we can constantly add what is needed for creating this baseline. So if you
Yes.
imagine your water is coming in here and there's a filter here,
Yes.
runs through the algae, then goes to your filtration, like the skimmer,
Yes.
and then it's pumped up. Very simple, very easy, right?
Very simple system, yeah.
But this is super easy and it exports quite a bit of stuff that you want to be in the aquarium. So
Yes.
you don't want that to be exported.
Yes.
And when water comes up here and you do not do anything, actually that water comes in here. It's maybe too clean, like maybe too
Depleted of
Yes,
some trace
depleted.
elements and things, yes.
Exactly. So what we did is we looked at every component, what it's actually taking out, what is releasing into the water, how can we kind of match them together,
Yes.
and then we add exactly that. That's the product infusion we have. So
Yes.
we add exactly what is needed for this fixed filter, you can
Yes.
call it,
Yes.
and then we take this variable out.
Yeah,
so
right.
we call that we call one of our parts that we sell core 7 base elements.
Yes.
It's called base elements because it's creating that base.
It's
So
the base that every system with that methodology
yes,
will be exporting either desirably or undesirably. It's that fixed sized refugium, that skimmer location, and that filter media with
Fixed
your
amount.
phosphate and carbon amount.
Yeah.
At this size, at this turnover per literage volume of your tank is going to remove this specific amount. It removes a variable.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So when you have that, you create a baseline that you can work with.
Yes.
Because we don't know what corals you have.
For sure.
We don't know what they will take up.
Yes.
But we cannot afford to have this unknown and that unknown.
Yes.
Because then you're in chaos and that's
Yes.
an issue.
Yes.
So that's what makes the Triton method so successful.
Yes.
Is actually that combination of the holistic way that we do now for 16, 17 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's backed up by science all the way.
Of
So
course. You guys are scientists at heart, that's
well,
for sure.
yeah, we were aquarists at heart too, so it kind of works really well.
You got 2 hearts.
Yeah, that works. They're beating together in a moment. That's good. And yeah, to be honest, like this is the approach that brings the success. To
Yes.
have a chaotic approach is very, very hard. We kind of gave up on that at one point.
For sure.
When we started this was the way that we could solve things.
Yes.
And nowadays, like after this 17, 16 years, some other people picking up on it too. They kind of start understanding. But Triton is, yeah, I mean, we kind of tried always to be, in the forefront, moving forward. So that's the way we did it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, just for those if they weren't able to follow that, the Triton method is a standardized filtration approach,
Yes.
which for your size of tank has a certain size refugium that then goes into a skimmer in a certain location, has a certain amount of turnover,
Yes.
runs a set amount of carbon and GFO 24/7 to eliminate variables there. Everyone will be running the same filtration setup, which has a known export or removal of
Uptake,
elements.
whatever you want to say. Yeah.
And then there is another variable that you guys are very fond of with the Triton method, and that is the eliminating of another variable in reduce or not doing water changes.
Yes.
You have other methods for removing unwanted elements and for
Yes.
introducing wanted elements that removes the need for water changes, which removes another variable from the system.
Yes, correct. So when we started, salt wasn't as good as it is now.
Yes.
Just to let you know. So when we started ICP testing, salt improved massively.
Yes.
Right? Because back then there was no control.
A bucket of white salt looks the same from one bucket to another.
On our reef keeper side, there was no ability to control it. So
Yes.
there is no need for any producer to control it.
Yes.
And yes, there was issues with salt and stuff, but now it's much better. Don't worry. You can still test it, but
Yes.
it's looking much, much better, right? But it was a variable. So changing water only makes sense if the water that you change with is
Yes.
better than the water in your tank.
Of course.
Right? And if you look at water change itself as a tool, 10% water change is 10% export.
Yes.
Means if you have a filter that filter is taking 90% of your export.
Yes.
Right? So weekly, this is 90%, and weekly, the water change is just 10%. What we said to ourselves is, okay, if we can make this filter holistic and more efficient,
Yes.
just 10% more efficient
Yeah.
means no need for water change.
For sure.
And that's what we did. And it was super easy. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't really hard. Without water change, you could say it runs even better because you give everything the time to kind of establish a better biology.
Yes.
Water changing with salt is very harsh.
Yes.
You know, salt itself is pure chemical, it's very
Yes.
harsh. When you mix it up and stuff. If you do it with seawater, total different thing. So
Sure.
seawater changes can be done even just if you want to. There's
Yes.
maybe no need for it, but if you do it, if the water is good, so
If
test
it's
it
collected at the
beforehand.
right time
Yeah.
and from the same location, it should be much more consistent.
Yeah,
should be.
you should test it from time to time. You can
Yes.
keep it quite a while. So
Yes.
if people have like a garage and enough space and not 10 cars, then you put it there and you fill it in for like IBC, and you
Yes.
just fill it up for 600 liters and you can use it from time to time.
Yes.
So we did that for years. If we sold it even in Germany. There was North Sea water, but we have an ICP to test for it.
Yes.
So if you test that, you're secure. And then you can use it from time to time. Yeah, but it's for the harsh kind of way of salt. So Australia mainly people using seawater,
Of course.
which is great.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like in the rest of the world, America, there's you live in inland.
It's not easy to access natural salt water, and you just through the inherent production process, you're going to get some variables in artificial salt. And as you say, it's also can be difficult when you're trying to maintain, particularly those trace elements that are very, very fine levels in the aquarium, and you're doing water changes, you can vary it quite a lot there unexpectedly.
Correct, and we can talk salt another time because that's if you want to start me there, I'm gone. Like,
Well, maybe that's a question for the viewers. If people want to hear Ehsan talk about artificial salts, the pros, the cons, be sure to pop it in the comment section down below, and we can always follow up there.
I will try to keep it funny so you're not fall asleep, but it's truly like another whole story. But honestly, yes, like I said, the need for it is 10%.
Yes.
If they're 10% efficient, you no need for 10% water change.
Sure,
If you do 20% water change, you think that's a good thing, 20% more efficient, you're done.
Yes.
So we kind of realize that this is the case, and
Yes.
there is no need for fluctuation if we keep everything constant. With ICP, it's a whole new world. Like before ICP,
For sure.
aquariums, you try to avoid things all the time,
Yes.
because you don't know.
Yes.
And nowadays you kind of know quite a lot. That's much better visibility.
This tank's obviously got a pretty easy access to an ICP machine there, so I imagine it's going to be getting tested fairly frequently.
Oh, we'll have a line going to it and just test it permanently.
And then that does bring you back to the one variable then that is in the Triton method, which is the living animals inside the aquarium, which obviously there's no standard method for that. No two corals are the same, no two fish the same, no two substrate is the same. They're all going to consume and release different elements at different times.
Correct, and that's the X that we want.
Yes.
So that's something that if that kind of variable is left alone, you can handle.
Yes.
Right? So you can handle, obviously you still need an ICP.
Of course.
But that's the top up thing that I talked to you. So that's kind of the little part that we do afterwards, which individualize the Triton system, or actually every kind of system. So it's an individual kind of trace element supplementation based on what you have up here, because the baseline is done, right?
Yes.
So we don't need to care about that anymore.
No.
We know it and we add it. But up here, you will add the traces and stuff that actually are used up, not from your export, but from your corals.
From your actual corals.
Yes.
Incredible.
So one thing that you possibly is interesting for you guys is this is also a way for us to do science.
Absolutely.
Right? So when we started that, there was no understanding of what a trace element does, right? So what?
Yeah, because we're not talking a couple of weeks here. You've been doing ICP for how long now?
12, 13 years.
12 years. I mean, you've seen the technology. I mean,
14 years, my God.
You've been the pioneer in the space in adapting it to not just saltwater, but aquarium saltwater, which does have some specific differences there, which is another video we can go into altogether.
Too much.
But then you've seen that grow and change and evolve over the years as technologies improve. Sometimes technology's taken backward steps. You've been able to apply those years of knowledge and experience into really refining this process now that you've got it into a well-refined beast.
Yeah, so that's true. It's just years of work, right? So
that's all.
Yeah, it is.
Easy as that.
It's just easy data and years of work. So there is nothing that you really can do to avoid that.
Yes.
It's just the way it is. So we've started with zero knowledge.
Yes.
And we needed to start somewhere and find out. But what is related about this success to the Triton method is that the Triton method, because it is a fixed system.
Yes.
It's a holistic, it is a framework, right? And that's the method, the framework. So the framework, it's also a scientific framework. Because you eliminate variables, you are able to understand the trace elements much better.
For sure.
So if I have one system here, but I have exactly the same full Triton method somewhere in Mexico, somewhere in Switzerland, somewhere in Germany, which is the case. We have so many full Triton method systems out there. We learn from each one.
Absolutely.
And over the time, so our support, for example, Julian, the marine biologist, over this time and data we have, we can easily find in a full Triton method what's actually gone wrong. So you go on like our full Triton, but they have cyanobacteria. It's easier for us to answer you what's the reason than in a chaotic system. And I'll call them chaotic system because they all are.
Of course, there's no standardized approach. Every filter, sump, setup, equipment's all set up differently.
Exactly, and it's just, it's kind of put together by the Reef kid, which is fine.
Yes.
But it is his
it's just more difficult to trace those variables.
It is his method, and we don't know what he's doing, and it's hard, and that's also making it hard for everybody that actually try to help them. So they're going on Facebook, they go on Instagram, they're going and ask, this is happening, and everybody's throwing things at them, but actually nobody knows what they're doing in the filter, nobody knows what they're adding to the, it's very, very difficult, and this kind of knowledge will not build up. So what we did over the last years is never changing anything to this, right? So we never change anything to the filter, to the holistic kind of framework, to be able to use all the data that we collected over that 16, 17 years. And that's making it very successful. That's actually the part of the work. It's making the work much easier, to be honest. That's what we needed. And so it's kind of two-sided. We call it the two-sided sword. It's good for the people, but it's good for our science too, which kind of elevates both.
Of course. Now, we've talked at reasonable length there in the Triton method and how that's going to apply on this system. I'm happy to talk about it all day, but I did promise the viewers that we'd talk a little bit about this incredible display that's taking shape behind you. Maybe starting from the top. What sort of lighting and mounting situation have you got going on up here?
So we have 15x force over it, right? Illumagic. We actually asked the people out there what we should use, and then we went through a big process of finding which one would be the best. And to be honest, they really convinced us.
Yes,
it's Australian, it's Australian Taiwanese brand.
Absolutely, yeah.
But there's like a lot of things to it that I really like, and I had it in the video, so I'm not going deep dive in it.
Sure. Yeah, if people want to find out the deep details, they can obviously jump on your socials and find the information there.
Yeah, you can. And for me, I mean, we created one of the first LED lamps.
Yeah.
You know, the Lani lights.
Yes.
The Lani LEDs that worked with SPS. We've proven it. That was 17 years ago. My daughter's 17 now. Wow, she's just getting...
She's driving, exactly.
Right? Anyway, so yeah, but then we sold the brand. Obviously, we kept, you know, evolving into the chemistry. But yeah, after that, I would say, like, you know, from my knowledge, this is one of the best lights right now on the market. So I'm very happy with them. Where technically, for sure, and we'll see it on our tank, but there is already full Triton tanks having that, like Juan Gabriel's in Mexico, run very successful. So I think there would be no issue there. But, you know, I'm just looking forward to turn them on. It's just taken. Turn them on.
It's going to light up like a Christmas tree. Did you say 15 of them?
Yeah, 15.
So 3 rows of 5.
Yeah. So what we wanna yeah. So and they're 8 degrees angle. And
yeah, this was something I was going to ask, because they're not just mounted flat. You've got these in this angle up, flat, angle down approach.
We made that on purpose. That's a kind of, you know, custom made one. It's also acrylic, and we have the logos on there, which the boys will love.
It looks a treat.
But it is that angle that we need. You know, that because in the Lani lights. We had 120 degrees angle of that light, and it was flat all over and all over the chrome. You can watch that video. There's a lot of videos of my old tank. But these lights are a bit different. They have like spottier versions. So I want to reach inside the coral. So when you're looking at them from the front, you still see that color.
For sure.
And that's good for the coral too, because they get a more natural look. I'll have a video online where we even share that kind of drawing.
Yeah, wonderful.
So if somebody want to do it the same way,
they can copy it. Yeah.
Yes.
Love it.
Pretty, like, that's a kind of the idea behind it, but it will work. I've seen it work with the 8 degrees kind of very well. There's some other stuff that is covered. I'm not telling you now. You need to watch my videos.
We won't release any more of the secret details there, but I will just say, you have mentioned in some of your social videos that you've posted up before. We'll very briefly touch on it, because I know it is a hot topic, about that you're a believer of, and I'm a believer of it too, but maybe not everyone else out there, that you cannot give corals too much light.
Now, it depends on the type of coral. If it's like a coral, you go 30 meters deep and get it there, well, but that's very rare, because 30 meters deep is very hard to get.
It's difficult to collect,
So mostly our corals will be like 5 meter, you know, living somewhere there, 10 meters.
Best.
You know.
I've been out to some reefs where, like, when the wave goes, I bottom out on them. Like,
exactly.
they're sitting in 50 centimeters of water.
I have that on that video, so I have that. And when we're going out with the boat, it's very dangerous because we're like running on ground, you know. But that's the truth in the reef. And I try to explain it. And there's a lot of things going around. There's people had talks about it on Magna. And they're just some, let's say, wrong perspectives on it.
Sure.
And that's caused a lot of things to be a bit like people being afraid of light, but you shouldn't. So, to be honest, if I would have unlimited money, right, I would, over this tank, I would put 21 of them.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So and then just fully blow them, and they will always be 100%.
Yes.
There will be nothing. I'll not go lower than 100%.
I love it. I run all of the lights over my tank at 100%.
Yeah. and it looks so much better. This is what you want. You want them in a natural environment.
Yes.
Right. And there's talks about shutdowns, and they're going into modes that they don't want that light, and and it's just not biologically logic. There's no logic behind it.
Yeah.
You can watch that video. I can do another one, you know, but
we can always go into more detail on par and the amount of light the corals can take. But moving down into the acrylic box itself, we've got to talk about some of this plumbing in here, because you've got some interesting things going on there. Obviously, I mean, this tank is under construction. It's not finished yet, but there's some pretty serious things happening in there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So we had a bit of an issue, right? We went out and asked the guys what pumps we should use, and because we like challenges, we like innovation, right? We went with a pump that we were very happy with. It's a Panther pump. right?
Yes.
So we had them in our old tank. I had pantherized, crazy good pumps, like really happy with them. Was very happy with them. They can talk to each other and stuff.
Very nice.
And now the guys brought like a closed loop version of it,
Yeah, nice.
which, yeah, it's super nice, but Sean hated it because it caused like so much trouble. So yeah, Sean obviously needed to drill the holes into
Yes.
this, and we have a video about that too. I videoed it. I've not helped him; we just videoed it. But
For sure.
that was very scary. So the point is, there's two versions of that pump, and if you
Yes.
come here, I'll show you
Yeah.
what this pump is about. That's it's one of them, right?
It's
So
crazy.
see, I mean, that's a monster.
It's a
It's
big
bomb.
monster of a pump, yeah.
So what we needed to do is we kind of needed space for all this plumbing.
Yes.
Because it's a 90.
It's a 90 mil pipe.
Yeah, it's a 90.
Huge. It's going to be no restriction in flow there whatsoever.
And that holes in for the bulkheads and stuff was kind of crazy big. And then anyway, so we did it. Sean did it. Thank you, Sean, wherever you are. Thank you. And then we needed to still have enough space down there. So
Yes.
it was kind of a bit of a difficult thing, and we got headache over how to get that done so there's enough space
Yes.
here to get like a tank inside and, you know, be able to get, you know, the skimmer out if we need to get
Of
it
course,
out.
yeah.
So it was a bit of a problem there, but then we decided on this way. So now we actually run, you need to understand these pumps are crazy. They actually turn around. So they
Yeah.
will be pumping from one side to the other and then turn around and suck from that side and pump from that side. So
Crazy,
you
crazy.
push out from that side. So it's really good because it's like you will have 4 pumps.
Yes.
While you have only 2, right? So you push the water out here, but you suck it out on that side.
Definitely.
And the other way
And
around.
you spin it around. Then
Yeah.
I assume, because you're running 2 of them, you got one on each side.
Yes.
You could have those running the same direction, counter direction.
And they talk to each other, so they know
Yes.
one is the master, one is
Yes.
the slave, and that was always the case. So they
Yes.
have a really good control unit. And you can add other pumps too. So we
Yes.
have still 2 other pumps that are, you know, the normal version of them sitting just on the glass.
In-tank wave maker, yes.
But
Yep.
that thing is kind of sucking the water from surround and push it.
Yes.
While this one is just sucking it from that side and push it from that side.
Yes.
So you'll see they're very powerful too.
Yeah.
And in this version, they move like a really big amount of water kind of slowly. So it's
Yes.
a very natural kind of thing that we have.
Very, very tidal. Now, to talk about some of the unique stocking ideas of the tank, I might track down one of the other lead guys at Triton Australia, Julian. All right, I've got Julian in and I've managed to put a microphone on the man because he's going to tell us about some interesting plans for this tank here. Ehsan's taken us through the Triton Method and some of the infrastructure around the tank, but what I'm really excited about, and it's such a strange thing, is that your plans for the livestock of this system are to be a marine biotope setup, which is something we see in the freshwater world over and over and over again. There's, you know, specific lakes, specific creeks, different types of water chemistry that people replicate in their tanks, yet for some reason in the marine world, we just go hodgepodge and shove everything into a glass box. You've got some different plans. Can you take us through what you're looking to do, Julian?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I think for our project, which is the Triton 2.0 biotope, GBR biotope, it's part of the planning process. Of course, we spent a lot of time thinking about what we're going to keep in this aquarium, and it's exciting. It's the planning is almost as fun as the actual end
sure.
product. So I think that, as you allude to, in the freshwater industry and hobby, it's a very common thing.
Yeah.
But to do it, and I see it time and time again when I've over the years visited shops and
Yes.
different people's aquariums, you see that mixture of all these different corals
For
from
sure.
so many different habitats. And I think, Sam, that was for me what I really wanted to do a little bit different, having been out in the reef previously working as a collector of coral and
Yes.
fish. I've seen the different habitats, and I know that, you know, that things like Catalophilia live in a very different zone than things like the Acropora, strawberry shortcake, and some of those outer
Yes.
barrier reef species. So it always irks me a little bit when I see
For sure.
the candy shop of, beautiful colourful coral, but nothing that replicates what we expect to see when we're out diving on the reef and in the actual habitat where the corals come from.
And you guys still here at Triton now, as part of your applied science approach to testing and building data around reefs all around the world. I mean, one of the main reasons why you're located here in Cairns is your access to the Great Barrier Reef, where you take your research vehicle out and you go and collect samples frequently to see what sort of trace elements and what's happening in those environments. And I mean, I know we've talked about it, but just to fill in the viewers, that you've said at some dive spots you'll have some species growing very happily and healthily 50 meters away from a spot where they do not grow at all, and there's some subtle differences in the currents and the different elements they're exposed to there. And that just obviously, when we try to put that into a glass box, or in this case an acrylic box, and we try to get corals from here, there, everywhere, and fish from here, there, everywhere, trying to grow all in the one environment, it makes it very difficult to replicate with any sort of level of success.
Yeah, it's definitely something that the more you spend time on the reef, the more you see the nuances and those differences between an inshore areas, the outer barrier. Even on the outer barrier reefs, you'll see zones in certain pockets where, as we spoke about, there's proliferation of a certain species, and you see them in such abundance in a very specific location. And it's those special habitats and those zones that we, through working with some of the coral collectors and identifying those areas, we know that there's a reason that those corals are there.
Yeah.
To do it, obviously, there's always a challenge in a smaller environment to do that. But I think that at least sticking with a Great Barrier Reef, obviously coral, because we don't import coral.
Our hands are tied there.
We
can only have coral and inverts from Australia, but I mean, we still have access to all around Australia, so you could realistically select things from up north, out west, and over on the east coast here, but located here in the Barrier Reef, obviously it makes sense to have access to those items here, but it's also, like I touched on before, it's something that for whatever reason people don't do. And I think with your connections here, not just in testing home aquariums, but your connections with some of the research programs and different public aquaria, and that seeing a biotope of the Great Barrier Reef to showcase the Triton method, the Triton filtration and supplementation, I think it's going to be something incredible.
Yeah, and I think it obviously, coral being a limited option there.
Yes.
But again, we can collect or have collectors from places like WA. Symphilia wilsoni is beautiful corals.
Absolutely. And like we talk about, a different part of Australia, but I mean, Western Australia is a long way from here for people watching overseas. If you have a look at a map, you'll see how many times your country fits in across Australia. It's a long, long way away from where we stand now.
Exactly. And I think, we should be proud of the region that we operate in, and it is an incredible resource we have here. The fish obviously will be the thing that I think is the real decider.
Of course.
I mean, Ehsan's last tank, he had amazing assortment of fish from all over the world.
Yes.
And when we were talking about it, I kind of said, well, let's be a bit unique. Let's stick to the ones that we have right on our doorstep. Again, we have access to the fish straight from the reef, effectively from the reef to our aquarium in hours. It's taking advantage of that. And
absolutely.
Not succumbing to some of the beautiful fish from other countries that we do appreciate, but just won't fit with the project.
Well, look, there are Triton Labs opening up all around the world, so I'm sure there's still the potential for different biotopes in different Triton Labs that can showcase those fish from different regions. But I am really excited to see something that I'm sure it exists. I would be certain someone out there has a Great Barrier Reef biotope tank, but I cannot personally think of one, and thinking that that's going to be here in this big, beautiful display is going to be something to see. So I really appreciate you taking the time to explain the plans.
Thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you.
Jules is one of the guys that actually came up and I want the biotope thing, because again, it's a standard that maybe we can learn something about.
For sure.
So when we're going out there, their biotopes, they're very special. I told you, but I'm not going to say now, but it's very special. Like, oh wow, like, oh, that could be, why is this coral here and next to that that softy.
Yes.
That's pretty strange. So maybe we'll find out something here that kind of works too, because the biotop, that's where they're coming from.
Yes.
So maybe that's easier. Who knows? Out of any reason. Maybe the mixture is the problem.
That's the whole premise of science, isn't it? And I mean, we've talked in detail over lunch today about how even in a relatively small square kilometre radius, you can have some very different biotopes in the Great Barrier Reef, where you've got some species of corals thriving, and then as little as a couple of 100 metres away, they are struggling and other species are taking over. And there's still so much that we don't know about that. And I know that's something that's driving you. You're out there in that boat taking samples all the time, adding them to the Triton database. Whenever there's, not just when conditions are good, but when conditions are bad. So you're building up all this knowledge about...
I'll take you when it's bad.
I don't need to be adding to the burley in the water, that's for sure. I'll go out there on a beautiful, calm day. But that database of what's happening in the real reefs in a varied conditions is going to be super interesting. And then being able to replicate that in these 4 acrylic walls is going to be something pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think so. And what you really have, what you need to understand is the reason why I came here was that to be able to go over that border.
Yes.
And you know, for a scientist or for applied scientist, my dad is very different to me from that perspective. He's very thinking and I'm very doing. You know? For me, it's important to immerse myself into all this.
Yes.
Because then out of like, you know, luck, you know, like you'll be lucky and the apple hits your head, you know, and you're like, oh, Newton, you know, like that's all good. So this is the reality of things, you know. So when we go out there and we do dives and we have a camera on that drone and you know, and so
collecting some incredible data.
You kind of realize like, oh wow, like wait, there was like this coral and this coral, but I've not seen any other coral. So why is it just there, right?
Yes.
And then you start, okay, that's a good place to sample water even more and just check it out and see if I found anything.
Yes.
And like I told you about like all the wonky hole research and stuff, so it's kind of so much to learn out there.
Yes.
And aquariums are a bit limited on one point towards believing people.
Yes.
And, you know, not too much control. He's more control for us. And to the extremes.
Yes.
Because, you know, in aquariums you'll find high amount of copper because somebody dosed copper. You won't find it there.
No, I'd hope not.
Yeah, but you learn that too. So that combination works really well for us.
Yes. Yeah. Now, obviously the tank sitting in front of you right now, it's empty. There's no sump in place. There's no scape in place. What's the sort of time frames are we expecting to see some water and some activity in here?
I don't know when you want to show that, you know, but to be honest, it's not far away. So we're going to glue that side and the other side soon.
Yes.
We'll have like an acrylic stage, like a acrylic like little plate here, which is holding the pumps.
Yes.
The main part is done. Like drilling the holes was the horrible, scary part.
The hard work's done.
Let's say like, I'll just show the videos. It's good. I have it in slow motion. So and yeah, the hard work is really done. Like getting the lights up, getting that thing built for it. There's some other stuff that is happening with the lights, which is really exciting, but it's not too much anymore. We'll actually start filling it. We'll glue the rear box in. The rear box is built. We just put it in. It's not hard, and then we just fill it. So it's not going to be hard for us to fill it because we'll obviously just take seawater from here.
Of course,
fill it up, and then we'll just run it a little bit, get our live rock. Because we're going to run it live rock. That's typical Triton method. Get the sump is easy to build. That's glass, going to be easy.
Very
so
easy,
I'm not going to wait too long anymore. It's a good time to start it too because it's cold outside.
Yes.
So it's not, you know, we don't have a heat problem right now. We don't have cyclones coming. So just
always good.
We'll have it. So, you know, we'll have some security going on this tank, but we can do it after we fill it because right now we don't expect anything to happen. So it's pretty good. I think 1 month from now.
Awesome. Yeah. So in the coming weeks to months, we're going to see some water in the system, and then I imagine, knowing how passionate you are and the rest of the team here at Triton, things will happen pretty quickly from there. And I also believe you're going to be setting up a camera that's going to take some still shots once or twice a day so you can track the progress of the growth from a fixed location. It'll compile to a short video that'll just show corals growing before your eyes.
Yeah, that's what a lot of our customers really want. Like long time customers know that old tank. We had like, I mean, you know, back then you take your camera and you take pictures like every year. So I have like every year like our growth scope, but you would have seen this thing grow like little plugs like that. Grow to a
big monster colony.
Monster colony is like this size. That was pretty cool. So yeah, I hope we can get that going here, but I think so. I think we'll work.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time, one, to show us this incredible system. I know how excited you are. I know how much you miss your system from Germany. So I know personally how excited you are to get this set up, and being able to get a early access view of the system and the plans for it is really a privilege. And I also really appreciate you taking the time to explain a little bit of that Triton method, more so than just the Triton testing and dosing, the holistic method, which I think goes past a lot of people, because it's, as we said, it's not something that you sell. It's just a methodology which makes the other components a lot easier. So I can't thank you enough. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
and
thank you.
I'm sure the viewers here will probably have endless questions for you. I'm more than happy to field as many of these questions as possible if people want to pop them in the comment section down below. And of course, if you want to see this tank once it's wet, once it's got some livestock in there, be sure to let us know, and I'll jump back on a plane and we'll come out and see where the system's at and see if we can get in a couple of those still shots.
You can tell us what you want in there.
Oh, man, now we're getting interactive. I like it.
Yeah, we're very open to that. So like in the past there were like people coming in and saying, oh wow, that's a dream tank because I can't keep that coral and can't keep this fish.
Okay.
So we had fish from South Africa that nobody else had like that back then. So just to let you know, if you want anything special in here, I'm good with that.
I love it, love it. Fantastic work. Well, but once again, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, guys. See ya.
All right, guys, there you have it. That is the progress on the Triton Display Tank 2.0, and also a bit of a deep dive into exactly what is the Triton methodology. And I've got to say, I learned a lot. It makes a lot of sense for someone like me who has a computer programming background to eliminate variables. It's not necessarily suggesting that their methodology of filtration is the best version out there, but it is a solid and proven methodology of filtration. And by utilizing the same methodology across a number of systems, it allows them to build up even more knowledge and be able to diagnose things that are happening in your reef aquarium. And that completely made sense to me. So a massive shout out to Ehsan for taking the time to explain all of that to me, because it definitely has elevated my own personal reefing adventure, and I hope it was of value to all of you out there. Now, if you do have any questions at all for Ehsan or anyone else in the Triton team, please do pop them in the comment section down below, because Ehsan was very big on me letting you guys know that there are no secrets at Triton. So if you have any questions whatsoever about the Triton ICP testing, the Triton products, the Triton methodology, or of course on their brand new display tank, feel free to pop it in the comment section down below. I will either personally reply, because I do personally reply to each and every comment down there, but if I don't know the answer, I will track down the guys from Triton and they will respond personally for you there as well. So please don't be shy, pop all your comments down there. And of course, if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, we are very, very close, only a couple hundred subscribers away now from hitting that magical 30,000 mark. I would personally really appreciate it, and it would be remiss of me not to give a massive shout out to all of my channel members. These names on screen here now that chip in a couple of bucks each and every month to make videos like this one possible and remain as unbiased as possible. So thank you very much. Now, as teased last week, I do have one more video to come from my Cairns trip, and this one's pretty cool. We're going to go to Cairns Aquarium. We're not going to bother looking at all of those fiberglassy fake coral displays that are just full of the big fish that we don't have at the home reef aquariums. We're going to go straight to the living coral displays and have a chat to one of the team members there who manages those displays, see how things work on a huge reef tank scale, and also get out the back and have a look at the filtration they use, because some things are just like what we have in the home aquarium, some things are nothing like it at all, and obviously some things are just like they're on steroids from our home tanks. So it's a truly interesting video, and I really look forward to bringing that one to you next week. Other than that, guys, I think I will leave you with it. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, stay safe, keep reefing. Cheers, bye.